If you're watching this video right now, there's a reason you clicked. In this story, you'll hear about a father who loved quietly, a child who understood more than he spoke, and a memory that still visits him at night. If you haven't seen my previous story, you didn't miss it by accident, because this story is what happens after those nights. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might feel something you weren't expecting. You might remember a story called "The Nights That Taught Me How to Be a Single Father." That story was about survival, about staying strong when no one was watching. This one is about what love quietly became. After those nights, the house felt different that evening. Not louder, not emptier, just still. My son was asleep in his room, the same way he always was. One arm stretched out, like he was reaching for something in his dreams. I stood in the hallway longer than usual, because lately, moments like this felt fragile. There was a time I believed love had to be loud. Big gestures, clear promises, two people standing side by side. But life corrected me. After the separation, after the questions, after the nights you may have heard about. In my last video, love became quieter. It showed up in packed lunches, in folded laundry, in sitting on the edge of a bed, long after the lights were off. And sometimes, it showed up as memory. There was a woman once who believed in me before I learned how to believe in myself. She isn't part of our daily life anymore, but traces of her remain. In the way my son laughs, in the way he listens carefully, in the kindness he shows, without being told. One night, as I tucked him in, he asked softly, "Dad, do you still remember when we were all together?" I nodded. He didn't ask more. He didn't need to, because children don't need explanations. They need honesty and presence. That night, I sat alone in the living room. The same couch, the same silence, but it felt different. I realized something important. Romantic love doesn't always disappear. Sometimes it transforms into responsibility, into patience, into staying, when leaving would have been easier. If you watched the previous video, you saw the exhaustion, the doubt, the fear of not being enough. This story is what came next. Learning that love doesn't end just because life changes its shape. The next morning, my son handed me a drawing. It was simple. Stick figures, crayons slightly outside the lines. It was us holding hands. Nothing. That night, after the house went quiet again, I found myself standing by the window. The city lights were distant, blurred through the glass, just like the memories I spoke about earlier. If you watched the previous part of this story, you already know how silence became my routine, how responsibility arrived before I felt ready. This is what came after. Love is strange that way. It doesn't knock. It doesn't ask permission. It just stays, even after people leave. There are moments I don't talk about often, moments that don't fit into explanations, like how a familiar song can slow your breathing, or how the quiet of the night can bring back someone who once sat beside you, doing nothing important, and somehow meaning everything. Before life changed, there were small rituals, late-night conversations, shared coffee cups, soft laughter that never needed a reason. We didn't know. We were building memories. We thought we were just living. Romantic love doesn't always end with a dramatic goodbye. Sometimes it fades into responsibility, into distance, into two people learning how to survive separately. And yet, it leaves behind warmth. I see it when my son smiles, the way she used to. I hear it in the kindness of his questions. That's when I realize some love stories don't disappear. They evolve. If you remember from the earlier story, how he asked me if I ever got tired of being his only parent. This is where that strength comes from. That night, as I checked on him one last time, he stirred slightly and whispered half asleep, "Dad, you're still here." I smiled because staying has become my way of loving. Romance now looks different. It looks like stability, like choosing patience over bitterness, like carrying good memories without letting them break you. There are nights when loneliness visits quietly, not loudly, not painfully, just enough to remind me that I once loved deeply, and maybe I still do, just differently. I've learned that romance isn't only about holding hands. Sometimes it's about letting go without resentment, about honoring what was while protecting what is. If you're new here and this story feels familiar, you might want to watch the first part of this journey. It explains the nights, the fear, and the silence that led to this moment. And if stories like this speak to you, quiet stories, real stories, the ones told after midnight, subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell, because there are more chapters coming as I turned of.